Thank y'all very much for being here on a beautiful day, and I think I've been advised that we will be moving forward as no citizens had signed in back there. Scott, thank you very much. So we would open by Chaplain Leanne Franklin, if you'd come forward. And, you know, I reported something last month, and I want to also, Leanne, before you start, so we can be thinking of this individual. Many of us came on the board back then, but I also reported last month we'd lost a previous board member, and I just want to advise everybody, and we send all our condolences to the family, that one of our former board members, Mr. Dan Cerna, passed away, and he was a former member of this board and vice chair, so we will keep that family in our thoughts and prayers. And so after Leanne's finished, if you would then join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. Leanne.
Thank you. Before I came down here, I just came from the emergency department, bed 36, where after 18 minutes of trying to resuscitate a woman, her daughter said, "Thank you so much. Please thank everyone for how wonderful every person is." So I just wanted to remind everybody that the difference we make, every patient, every family member, every day. And with that, let us pray. We gather together, and we're thankful for every single person here today, for all those who are committed to helping JPS provide the best possible experience, no matter what the outcome. Thank you for this board, for these leaders, for all who are gathered here today. We thank you for Mr. Dan Cerner and all those who have been here before who have helped to make JPS the best possible place. We ask this afternoon that you unite our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. Grant each of us and all of us your wisdom, your courage, your compassion, and your guidance as together we work to make JPS the very best it can be for all the communities we serve. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Again, there being no indication anyone signed in, I would then move forward to item number 4 and entertain a motion for approval of the February 8th minutes, which has been provided previously and is also in your packet. So I have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Thank you very much. And Leanne, before you leave, I just want to say something. I didn't want to interrupt you a while ago, but you know, you bring a true perspective to what you said. We're fixing to talk about a lot of business here, a lot of committees, the members of this board and staff serve on a lot of different things. We get so caught up in the business sometimes we forget the real world. And you brought the real world in because this hospital deals with lives every day. So thank you for your comments. Appreciate what you do. All righty, minutes are done. I guess I'm up front before you today, Robert, so I get to talk about a couple things, but I'm going to leave a couple major things for you to cover. One being, y'all been watching the board go around, and I apologize, I meant to pass these out. Neil, if you'll send some down that side, let me keep one. You know, one of the things I get to do, and I'm sitting here looking at 3 former chairmen on this board, so you know when you were in this seat that one of the things you get to do in this position is tend a lot of functions, a lot of fun things. But I wanted y'all to know I got to attend on behalf of the board the 2018 Excellent Awards. And, you know, this is the best of the best, but, you know, it's pretty hard to find, you know, people out there that, I mean, you look at these things and you go, my gracious, how do they do all this? So take this with you. I know, Robert, you've got, I think, playing up top. I mean, I just took the first one. Again, I'm not because I picked out anybody, but I was there when these people got their awards, and I was so amazed. It makes you so proud to be a part of this organization. But, you know, I'm taking Margot Allen. I can't even pronounce all the certifications this lady has behind her name. So I know she's very good at what she does, and she got picked by her peers. But you get down at the very bottom, and I think it speaks to the culture of this institution. What the lady does is she formed a street choir for the homeless. So when you got all that education and you work hard every day and you still got the kind of heart, Ralph, as you very well know, to be a servant, you go out and do things like this. So again, to all our recipients, it was a great evening. They're all truly deserving of the award. So again, I got to represent y'all at that. I just want to make sure y'all are aware of that. The other thing is, from time to time, we have organizations that do things for JPS, and I think it's the board needs to know that. As Robert knows, this organization has done stuff for this organization for many years. Many of us know Miss Rebecca Brumley, the Red Oak Foundation. I went by personally to thank them this week for what they do, and I think last year they put in here to our reading programs and our clinics, they provided 6,769 books for children throughout our district. They provided that at no cost to the district. They do that from their foundation. So to Ms. Brumley and the board, the Red Oak Foundation, like so many people that support us, again, I think it's nice to stop sometimes and say thank you. Two other things that I'm done. I had the pleasure, he won't say anything about this, I had the pleasure yesterday as a former member of their board in front of probably 350 downtown business people, primarily yesterday. The man to my left, Mr. Early, received another prestigious award. He received the Silver Eagle Award from the Boy Scouts of America for leadership. He had the room, with his humor, he had the room, but more important, he gave a tremendous speech on leadership and mentoring. And again, Robert, I know you don't think about this, but when you're standing there and you're doing what you do so well, you're representing JPS too. And so, again, we talk about the way the organizations ran. You don't have to do all that, but you do a tremendous job in this community by going out and doing that. So on behalf of myself, and I believe the board, all of us, I say thank you very much. The only other two things of business I'm going to kind of leave to Robert. I think before we turn something over to him, we've been talking about the Joint Commission. We've been talking about the Blue Ribbon Committee. We've been talking about this board. We did finally all get together to go over and discuss the findings of that report. I appreciate this board and busy schedules. Many of you, along with everything else, it was another Tuesday afternoon. Many of you gave, and some couldn't be there. Thank you for your attendance. I think it was a very positive move, and don't know exactly where that's going, but again, I want to say thank you very much. And Robert, you may have something else in a moment you want to update on that. And the last thing is to many in this room, we all know the Joint Commission was here. And I'm going to leave you that, Robert, to say. Robert's going to brag on the staff. He's going to talk about his team. I attended the results of that with the review committee, and I think Ms. Joan Gannon made the comment as she opened that discussion that she was here 3 years ago. And I think her exact words, and Chuck was there with me as vice chair of the board, I think her exact words were, so much continues to happen so good at this institution. Chuck, did I kind of paraphrase what that? So again, I'll let Robert get down to really what the report said. But again, as a board, I think we're all very proud of what came in, Robert. And I'll leave the discussion to you. So again, that's kind of my update, Robert. And I'll let you kind of cover I know there's several other issues out there that we can talk about later, but it's all yours.
You bet. You bet. Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank you for your kind words. A couple things I want to give you guys an update on. We've got 4 incredible county commissioners and an incredible county judge that do a lot for our county, but they also do a lot with JPS. And Commissioner Brooks just got done on the program that he has for prostate screening. That's very personal and important to him because he's dealt with that and he has beat prostate cancer, and we're proud of that. And he's an advocate for particularly the African-American community in that regard, where we have a lot of folks that go unchecked and unscreened, but for the community as a whole. And we participated in that program as we have from the genesis of that program with him. And it was a hugely successful program. We had our doctors there. We had our phlebotomists there. We had a table there of support. We had our caseworkers. We had a whole team of people to help them line up. And that was one more indication of our partnership and our growing relationship with the Moncrief Cancer Center, because they are playing an integral part in helping this community deal with prostate cancer and screening. That is a cancer that we can beat. You just have to catch it early, and proper screening can catch it early, and we can win that one. So hats off to Commissioner Brooks and the team at JPS and the team at Moncrief, because that trio put that together to make that really work well. Chairman Powell mentioned the fact that we had Joint Commission come in. Joint Commission did come in. They brought 7 surveyors with them. So we had 7 guests for 5 days, and that's the music we played when they walked in the door, and that worked really well. And it certainly helped the Joint Commission to hear that trumpet playing. They actually were wonderful, and one of the things that Mr. Powell mentioned, which is true, is the lead surveyor had incredible things to say about us at JPS. But one of the things that was probably the most prideful for us as a team is when one of the surveyors was leaving. We had 210 people of us in here, and the surveyor was leaving, and he yelled out, he said, "I want y'all to know that if I come back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I want my health care to be provided here at JPS." I've never heard a surveyor say that, and we just rose in just our own elevation of excitement. So we were really, really honored by that. The other thing that I was so pleased about, that we've never had a better report from Joint Commission, but I'll tell you one key component was not only the great, incredible staff work, but the work of gentlemen like Chet Schrader and Tim Kramer and Tim Nakaris. They were down in the OR with Tim Nakaris, and we went over a pre-op huddle where we talked to the family about what's going to happen to you, and everybody on that team gathered to meet with that family. That survey team witnessed that and said, "This is pretty incredible." And Tim Nakaris walked them through that. And what those 3 gentlemen did, and others of our physicians did, we've not always had that element. And it showed quite a unity and a strength between them, and that was really powerful. So to you, Dr. Kramer, who's sitting in the back, and to you, Dr. Schrader, and Dr. Nia Karas, who's not here, I want to personally thank you all publicly, because that made such a huge difference, and it shows the attitude of our physicians, and we're greatly appreciative. We will dissect the report in a little more detail at a later meeting. We have not gotten the final report, but we've gotten an indication of where we are. I also want to thank both Charlie and Chuck, because they sat through those meetings with us. And to Chuck in particular, Chuck's been through a bunch of Joint Commission reviews here at JPS, and that was really powerful, Dr. Weber, that you were there for us, because you got to hear a perspective that only you, as a past chair of surgery and a surgeon here for so many years, can really understand how that went. So greatly appreciative. That is pretty much on my report that I have. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention, and I know that you, Mr. Chair, are so dedicated to this. We want to remind everybody as we move closer, I mentioned this at the Commissioners Court meeting, as we move closer to any decision that may or may not be made regarding a bond election, whether they're going to have one or not have one, when they have it, when they do not have it, we have, I think, an obligation to our taxpayers as board members and administrators to be very, very cautious and make sure that when we do have meetings, we try to stay away from issues of people wanting to communicate their services that they might be able to render us in a bond package. I want to be respectful of the industry, of all industries. I want to make sure that I, as a CEO of the organization, are careful, polite, and also being very ethical about who we communicate with. We have a board policy, and that applies to administration, and it applies to you as board members. And I think it will also be quite helpful, because we have good-meaning folks in the community that want to do things for JPS, but the appearance of doing things at this time and others might not be in our best interest, or might not be perceived for the value that those groups are trying to bring to us. So We will make sure that you all get a copy of that again, so you can take a look at that. That was a process. Scott, we did that, what, 2 years ago?
2 years.
Yeah, two and a half
Ralph was
years
chair
ago.
when we did that.
We did it under Ralph's administration, and it was hugely helpful for us, and I appreciate you, Pastor Emerson, doing that, because, again, it just sets the standards. Doesn't say anybody's done anything wrong or nothing. It just communicates to the community and to us those boundaries that we need to keep so that we can be obligated to the taxpayers and the leaders of this community.
Good deal. Robert, thank you for covering that. And again, that was a policy 2 years ago. Oh, sorry, Ralph. Okay.
I just want to comment a moment on the Blue Ribbon Committee. I thought it was excellent, what was done, but I often realize that when comments are made that we need to do something, many times the persons that say we need to do something are not aware of what we're doing. And I did have a little concern that it was expressed that we needed to do more joint and do more cooperative effort with other. And I don't think that really the board or commissioners really know all of the work that the staff is doing with other agencies in this community. And I think it would be helpful. I know that we said, yes, we will look to increase that, but I think it would be helpful if the board was informed and had a sheet to just, something that showed all of the things we were doing in this community, Public Health Department, UNT, Carter Center. I think that would be helpful.
I think it's a good point.
Good point.
I think we keep talking about collaboration and cooperation, and like we're not doing it, so gee, we ought to do it. I think your point's well made. We're doing it. These people sitting out here on the staff and
Right.
and the rest of the group, they're doing a whole lot more. So I think the point's well made. So Robert, that might be something we can get JR and staff kind of like a communicative when we're asking. And just to reiterate, Ralph, thanks for that. And again, talking about the policy on, it's so easy when, as we move around this community, for somebody to say, I want to come talk to you about, well, we don't even know what's going to happen yet. And we hate to alienate anybody, but we just can't get, and you went through the same thing, and all the board members do. So again, I just advise we don't get into what's going to happen. Personally, we don't know what's going to happen, but as soon as we do, there's a lot of people beginning to think, oh my gracious. I think when and if, hopefully there is that opportunity, Ralph, we talked about for a lot of things that could happen in this community to be very positive in support of the bond. So anyway, well, thank y'all very much. Anything else at that area? If not, Robert, I will move along to the Medical Executive Committee staff, and I think we got Dr. Schrader right here, so it's all
Thank you,
yours.
Mr. Chairman. So before I get to my one announcement, I think I'd be remiss to not say thank you to Robert for the leadership as far as with the Joint Commission and his staff. I think I saw Jamie Pillai marching through ceilings, and so as much credit as Robert wanted to defer to me and Tim and the other medical staff members, I don't think it would have been possible without the leadership of Robert, so thank you.
Thank you.
My one announcement, on March 30th, we'll be having a Doctor's Day. So for those that weren't aware, last year, Robert and the staff, as you would expect in true servant leadership, served breakfast to the medical staff members. There is nothing that brightens your day more than walking up to a Laura Burnside or a Sharon Clark and collecting your eggs and bacon. So our next one's March 30th, and for those that have an opportunity to make it, would love to have the board come participate in the fellowship that occurs in this room with the physicians there. So outside of that, I did not have another update.
Good deal. Any questions, Dr. Schrader?
Who's cooking that day?
We don't disclose that. We just serve it, so it works out really well.
I guess I'll just say ask and answered, move on. So anyway, ask and answered. All righty. And great. Now we'll get the report from McLean. Diana, there you are. If you'd please come up and make that. Ms. Rachel, the Chief Operating Officer of McLean.
Good afternoon. Really short report this month.
Move that, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, very short report this month. Is that better?
Mr. Keeley?
Yes? Is he shaking his head back there? It's green.
There you go.
Got it?
There it is.
Picked it up. Okay, good. All right. And thank you for having me. Acclaim is continuing to perform well against budget. You've heard that from Sharon Clark in the last Finance Committee meetings. We've got 32 open positions currently. We're still doing heavy recruitment for dermatology, ENT, and behavioral health positions, which are hard to fill. I am happy to say I had a delightful dermatology candidate in this morning, and if she could start tomorrow, I would have started her immediately. This month, we've added 4 providers since I saw you last. Of note, we have a new director of our PEC, our psychiatric emergency room that started, Dr. Paul Schneider. And so we're delighted to have him on board and get his sea legs as he begins to work in that area over the next few months. And that's all I have today.
Any questions for Diane? I'd also turn this time to Chuck. As you know, Dr. Weber serves as the president of the exec committee of Acclaim as per the bylaws. Chuck, anything else we need to add? Everything's done, then Diane, if there's no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. Oh, yes, Rex.
Since Dr. Johnson is retiring from the staff, is he not in that position anymore? Did you replace him?
He is not in that position only because he left the organization, spent a little more family time. So we're in the process right now. We opened that up for interviews, and we've gone through a selection process, and we're about to finish that up.
Okay,
You
Rex.
bet.
Good deal. Panna, thank you very much. Which now brings us to the committee reports. I will also tell you that all these committees have met. They have the dates there, and they've all been fairly recent, as you can see, since February the 22nd. I know the finance is the first one, so I will go to Mr. Steve Montgomery, Finance Chair. Any?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
comments,
Mr. Chairman. We did have a meeting on the 22nd. We forwarded about 8 or so contracts to the full committee, full board, under the consent agenda, but we also pulled out about a half a dozen at Mr. Wynn's request that would be voted on at this meeting. And I think they're under item 10 on the agenda, so we'll get to those, but that's we'll take those up one at a time.
Super. All right, thank you very much. I will say also, when we're talking about finance, I think if you looked at your upcoming calendar from the district, we have May 10th, which is a board day. But I think you'll probably recall, trend all the way back and with Steve and Ralph, that we're gonna use some of that meeting to start it's hard to imagine we're talking about the budget already, but we're gonna probably have the first discussion. I know Sharon's back there going, oh my gracious, the budgeting process, but I think we'll have our first meeting and kind of get the framework. I think is what I'm talking with Steve and Sharon. So that'll start in May this year, so we'll have ample time for any budget presentation that we will get all that aired out so the board is well aware of all that and have input. So I just want to note that it'll be here before we know it, but that schedule for May.
Sharon is actually genuinely excited. That's one other reason we hired her. We want somebody excited about that.
Yeah, some more
She's
meetings on
genuinely
budget.
excited.
Yeah, more budget
Look at
retreats.
that. That's excitement right there.
But I think it, yeah, for an accountant, that is a
excitement.
pretty exciting look. I will say that I think we'll have it here. We just felt like that we just tie it to a board meeting. That way there's no cost offsite or anything like that. So it'll be done here. They'll take care of the finance report. Mr. Fisher's not here. He's actually out of town. I was at that meeting. Most everything pretty standard. I think several people here in this room were there. There was nothing major. Any other items have been reported. So if there's no questions on governance, we would go to quality. I want to also thank Chuck, as previous quality committee chair, with the absence of one of our resignation of one of our board members. Chuck's asked to, or he didn't ask, I asked Chuck to, if he would in the interim, to please serve again in that capacity. So Chuck, thank you very much. I was at the meeting. Was there any other thing you'd like to report?
There's 2 or 3 things. We met on the 1st of March. There are policies and procedures that we approved that are in the consent agenda. But there were 2 excellent presentations. One was by Dr. Nick Carius, orthopedic surgeon with our organization, who talked about the electronic medical record and the degree of satisfaction that has arrived with that. I mean, we're so far ahead of the curve. I mean, there are organizations that hate their electronic medical record, but our group has embraced it. Fair statement.
Yeah, it was over 90th percentile, I think.
Second in the country.
Right.
Yes.
You know, it's pretty impressive. And the second one was the patient, employee, and physician experience update by Laura. And Dr. Chirakuri could not be here. She's the acting director of quality for the, I did not see if she's here,
I think she's in the audience right now.
but they were both excellent. Just outstanding, where we started and where we've come.
Appreciate that. Rex, did you have a question? Okay, got you. Any other questions for Chuck in this area or whatever? Then we will move on.
Thank you.
I guess the next thing, Neil, is we're getting to item number 10. We'll make sure we get this right. Planning, that's right.
Yeah,
just
the only
have
reason I
notes
want
over
to
here.
speak is because
Yeah.
if you were not at the meeting, and Charlie, I know you were, many of you were not, the northeast building is now dry. So we have moved from the stage of, building and construction and mud and all those things now to a building that's in the dry, which means that we can work throughout the summer to get that building finished, so.
And we have still in line with an October opening date, and Angie and her team are doing a great job.
Yeah, they are, and for some of you actually get and read this. It's one of my habits to sometimes read this, because when they made me do chair of finance, I didn't know anything, and Steve said, read this. One of the things that we encountered, if you'll remember, when the DISRIP program came out, was the split between UC and how much of that would become JPS money. And it's interesting, if you haven't read this, read it, because I want to read a paragraph to you. It says, using the modified S10 form will mean that hospitals no longer can count their Medicaid shortfall or bad debt as uncompensated care costs. This was a huge issue for us, because as we competed for UC dollars, we were being compared to the pool of people that were able to put all those shortfall dollars into their budget and receive UC dollars for it. So, this would appear to be progress in the right direction when it comes to really being able to fund indigent patient care. So if you haven't taken a look at this, it's a good thing to
Yes, sir.
read. It's a nice thing to see.
Excellent point, Trent. Anything else, Trent? That's it. Well, again, planning is a lot of things going on. Angie does a great job, and a lot of things beginning to happen at JPS it constantly does, but getting out there forward thinking, hopefully there's some other things will be coming back through planning. Trent, thank you very much for your leadership. I think we've mentioned the Blue Ribbon Panel. We've said this before. I don't want to overdo this, but I think when we had the joint meeting, we said it again publicly. Trent, thanks to you, Dr. Lowry, who also served on that committee, but thanks to you, Trent, for taking the time to also serve our liaison between the Blue Ribbon Panel. I will then go to item number 10 on the agenda. The first one is the letter agreement between Superior Health Plan, Inc. and Tarrant County Hospital. Sharon? Yes, Ralph, I'm sorry.
Before Sharon starts, those items that I was here, those items that were pulled, that we put from finance here, it'd probably be good if what the question was addressed. Yeah,
Yes.
so we would know why it was.
You bet.
So I can, before we get into the consent agenda, I can address, there was one item that was pulled from the consent agenda, and that was the Provider Network of America Managed Care Agreement. And we set that aside. I'll be bringing that one back to Finance Committee to drill down a bit more. There was some questions that arose during our discussions on the TransUnion eScan agreement, which was part of our our collection efforts. During that time, we did get a vote, but I'll be bringing back more of a comprehensive look at Finance Committee next month about all of the steps that we go through and the vendors that we use on the collection of our self-pay accounts. So I think those were the two main issues that we had, but only one contract was pulled from the consent.
It was on, transfusion got a vote, and it stayed on consent, but in the interim, Sharon talked to DT about that.
Yes.
We did,
That's
and
Excuse me, Sharon, that's the point I want to make from that meeting, Ralph. DT was in California. I spoke with DT. He was coming back in and was at the meetings, and in between, DT actually met, and some of the questions he had, they got resolved.
That's what
I thought this might be where you're going. And
The other
he
thing-
met with Sharon. Go ahead.
The other thing, some of the issues that you raised from a process standpoint and what we're collecting and what we're showing on those, we've gone back, because that was more a universal question
Yes,
than
yes.
individual. So we've gone back with Sharon and staff and Scott, and we're going to go back through that to make sure that we can address that as well.
But I did talk to him in California because he was out that week, and he did come in and
Right.
he's met.
That's why I brought, because I know he's not here.
Good point.
But we
Right.
got it pulled. He
Yes.
saw it, okay.
Right.
Yeah, he's.
So
he was
when
in the
you,
process.
when you get to your consent agenda, which is a few items down,
Right.
the one managed care contract that we had a question on, even though it was approved at Finance Committee, we pulled it out of the consent agenda. You'll see that again back through Finance next month or the following month. And then you'll also see more of a comprehensive view of the self-pay collections next month.
We thought that's the best way to do it, Ralph, to make sure it goes right back through the process. Gotcha. Go ahead, Sharon, I'm sorry.
So, if you remember, these next three contracts that I'm showing for your approval are all related to the URIP program, which is the Uniform Hospital Rate Increase Program that you approved as a board a few months back. Associated with that program is the LPPF, where we are, as the county hospital, collecting dollars that we use for IGT. So these next three contracts are really kind of the third step in the full implementation of that circle. And with these letters of agreement that you are being presented, we have an associated rate increase for the managed care MCOs, the Medicaid organizations that pay us a rate, and those rates are going to be increased so that we can get a portion of our IGT dollars back. So, do y'all have any questions on that concept? Because all of these three agreements are exactly the same. We do push IGT dollars up. We had an older offload, a contract offload methodology that ended last year. This is the new methodology. So HHSC has approved a certain rate. So it's a state-established rate that will be increased through our Medicaid MCO payment for the IGT dollars that were pushed up.
And all these three amendments do is to provide those increases.
Correct.
So this is a plus for the organization.
Right, so these amendments will allow us a higher fee schedule from these three managed care payers in the marketplace in Tarrant County.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The first one for your consideration is Superior Health Plan.
And again, I know y'all have seen all this information. I've been advised by General Counsel, we will have to have 3 individual votes. So with the permission of the board, unless there's a lot of questions, I'd go ahead and entertain a motion on item number, which would be 10A. Have a motion? Second, Mr. Montgomery, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item number B.
Item B is a letter of agreement between Amerigroup Texas and JPS.
So moved.
I have a motion for approval. I have a second, Mr. Montgomery. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much. And Ms. Clark, number C.
The third and final is with Cook Children's Health Plan and JPS.
If there's no questions, entertain a motion. I have a motion by, and second by Dr. Weber. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much. All 3 carries. Sheriff, thank you very, very much. Item number D is consider approval of service agreement by and between UT Southwestern Moncrief Cancer Center and Tarrant County Hospital District. Bill?
mobile mammography services at the Southeast Medical Home between the district and Moncrief Cancer Institute. They've been out there for the last 6 weeks, have done a great number of scans, and would like to ask your consideration of continuing that current agreement.
I think obviously that's been discussed before. If there's any additional discussion for Bill, we'd entertain it now. If not, also entertain a motion. Have a motion for approval by Reverend Emerson, second by Dr. Weber. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Bill, thank you very, very much. Which brings us to item number 11, which is the consent agenda. Hopefully you had ample time and everything's been provided. Everything's been through committees. But if there's any discussion, we can pull. If not, I'd entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Just to clarify, I want to make sure that
Yes.
we've taken out what we need to take out for
Yeah.
Mr. Wynn. Okay.
The one agreement got pulled. Yes,
Got
it's
pulled,
not on
okay.
there.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you very much for asking that. We'll get that covered. Chuck, did you make a motion?
Yes.
Have a motion by Dr. Weber.
Second.
Have a second by Reverend Emerson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 11 is fine, which takes us to legal counsel update. Mr. Adams?
Actually, you got two items listed there. This, item A, for the month of January, 27 contracts under 200,000 were negotiated. Those were posted to your website. The actual implementation of the new policy to increase Robert's authority to 500,000 was not passed until the February board meeting, so we don't have a report on that. We'll have that sometime, will be for the March meeting. So I don't have anything else, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Which now, I guess, brings us, we do have just been advised, we do have a couple items for closed. Robert, is that what
We
you
do,
said?
and it will
Which
not,
should be.
should not be a long closed session.
Well,
You didn't think
I don't, Chandler, I don't know who what on this thing. Then I have been advised we need to go to close, so at 1:50, we will adjourn and come back in about 10 minutes for close. Thank you very much. We will now reconvene in open session at 2:25 this afternoon, and I think the first order of business, we will do privileges. Dr. Schrader, would you like to, is there anything that you want to add or whatever? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Have a motion by Dr. Weber, second by Reverend Emerson. Do you have a question, Rex? Say, great. There being no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Thank you very much, Dr. Schrader. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today? If not, thank you for being here. Have a nice, pretty afternoon, what's remaining of it, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.